As a creative aspect, TV is one of the best things that we do as a species. Along with music and film and books, they bring out the best creative of all of us. They entertain and they bring so much joy to many. They invoke emotion and enable us to feel things that we bury sometimes deep down. That's what this podcast is for. Welcome to A Million Little TV Shows. This is what I call the breakdown while I break down. Each week I will go through a different TV show, a different season of that TV show, and different episodes of that show. And I will break down not only emotions, but I will break down stories from my life, and let you know why these TV shows mean so much to me, and why I believe that they are some of the most important shows out there. This podcast is here to highlight a lot of smaller TV shows, or TV shows that don't really get a platform, because we know of a bunch of TV shows that get a multitude of different podcasts. Ted Lasso, Game of Thrones, The Office, they've all got several podcasts out there analysing all types of different things. But there's not many out there for the little guy, and that's what I'm trying to highlight. So each week I will go through a different show, different seasons, different episodes, and I will go across all different kinds of genres and different countries to bring you what I believe is some of the best TV out there. So I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you're here for this journey. And if you've watched the shows before and you wanted to come here and get an analysis on them and have someone go through them and pick out bits that you might have enjoyed, then I'm glad you are here. If, however, you have never watched the show and you just want to come and have someone talk in your ear about different TV shows, I'm glad you are here. But I hope that it inspires some people to go and seek out these TV shows. They deserve to be watched. They were made with love and care, and they are the same as this podcast, made with love and care. I am your host, Mike, and I will take you through every adventure, every horror, every piece of drama, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now episode 10 of season 9, and I cannot wait to get into this episode today. We are finally going to be finishing up Kevin Can Fuck Himself, and this has been such a fun show. I've laughed throughout, and I genuinely think it's one of the best underrated shows that I've watched, just because of the way that it's actually shot. Like I've said, you've got that conventional comedy shot where it's sort of a sitting room or a kitchen, and it's all front facing and it's facing towards an audience. But then as soon as Kevin leaves the room, it's this dingy, dark, sort of shameless vibe to it, where it's gritty and feels like some sort of Swedish drama. It's really cleverly done, and I'm going to miss it when it's gone because this was such a fantastic show. I really enjoyed all of it. But anyway, let's have a catch up where we are. So Allison, Kevin's wife, is now trying to disappear, essentially. She is going to fake her own death and run away. Patty is trying to help her with this, but obviously the implication of this means that she is now losing a friend who she's become close to over the last few months. Kevin is absolutely none the wiser as to what he does to his wife because he doesn't see anyone around him other than himself. And that includes his good friend Neil, who, ever since an incident with Allison and Patty, he's ended up being distant, and he has now been brought into this sort of dark, eerie realm that Allison inhabits when Kevin's not around. But it seems that she is trying to make her life better while in that state of mind. So it's a very interesting show. I like the dynamic of all the characters, even though I genuinely dislike Kevin, but I think that's more the comedy of it than anything else. But anyway, let's get into it. So, for the final time, this is Kevin Can Fuck Himself, Season 2, Episodes 5 to 8. Episode 5, The Unreliable Narrator. And so, as we know, Allison is now going to meet this contact, or at least she's going to try and make contact with this person to get these documents that she needs from City Hall. But of course, as we know, things don't often go well, or at least smoothly, when it comes to Allison doing anything in this show. And so it turns out that she's going to need $100, which she's trying to get away from Kevin, and she doesn't manage to get any money from him. So she goes to see Sam, thinking that maybe Sam will take pity on her, but Sam's got some art to her game. whenever someone tries to manipulate Sam, especially someone like Allison, she just has to say things in a certain way, and he will pick up on that and give out to her. Very much the same way that she got the job. He will always kowtow to whatever she wants, to her whims, because ultimately he does still have a thing for her, but he's been hurt by this situation. And now, of course, he knows that she's leaving. He doesn't want to get entangled in anything when it comes to her. And so he tells her that he's not going to help her out. She says that she didn't want him to help her out, but there was only one reason that she was actually going to be there. But just at this point, there is a blackout, and this is a citywide blackout. Allison and Sam decide to hunker down and just try and make the best of it. Allison knows that in a couple of hours she has to go and see this contact and go and get this paperwork anyway, so she might as well just hide out where she is right now, and hopefully it will pass quickly. However, of course, Kevin ends up turning up. Now, I always have a go at Kevin, but what he actually does in this situation is apparently he looked at where she was on his Find My Friends app, and then came to find her, which sounds sweet in all fairness, that he was looking for his wife at the time when she was potentially vulnerable. However, it seems weird that it's the first time that he's looking out for her. Anyway, he heads over to the restaurant, but of course, he takes everyone with him. So he takes his dad, he takes his dad's new girlfriend who he doesn't like, he takes Neil, and he takes Diane. And when he gets there, it turns out that Kevin has also brought a generator with him. Of course, this makes it sound like he's prepared for any situation. However, the guy's a fucking idiot and doesn't have any fuel in it. He thinks this thing runs on batteries, and obviously it doesn't. It runs on fuel, it runs on gasoline, and he doesn't have any. So he's brought this generator hoping that it will help the situation, and all it's done is create an issue. Allison makes excuses that she's going to go and try and find some fuel, and when it looks like Kevin's going to interject and tell her that she doesn't need to do that, that he will go and do that because he's the man, of course he's a fucking coward. He doesn't offer to go and help his wife out or do anything for her. He still expects her to go, but he sends someone else with her. At this point, Allison has already texted Patty and told her to come down to the restaurant, which she has done. Her and Patty head out, and they're actually going to go and see this person about these documents. Back at the restaurant, Kevin finds out that Sam has split from his wife, and that he is living in the restaurant. And of course, Sam wants to be private about this. He doesn't want his private business spread out amongst these people that are in his restaurant. Kevin tells him that he is going to be discreet, but again, it's Kevin, and the man's a fucking moron, and he is not one little bit. But thankfully, for a moment at least, Kevin is distracted by the fact that someone has stolen the generator, and he starts accusing everyone. He starts doing interviews and lineups and basically trying to get to the bottom of where this generator has gone, because someone has stolen it. He even starts accusing Sam of doing so, even though Sam was in the same room as him when the thing went missing. At this point, Kevin's also doing some sort of lessons with Sam. He's trying to teach him how to be a better husband. And the irony of it is that everything that he says is stupid. I mean, I suppose he is teaching him to be a better husband, do everything that is opposite to what Kevin is saying. But yeah, it's a frustrating watch because the man isn't adept at anything. While Allison's going over to see this person, she tells Patty that she's going to need some money because she obviously doesn't have any. Patty tells her that they're going to go over to the salon and they can pick up some money from there and then they can go elsewhere. But when they do, now that there's a blackout, cops are out on the streets looking for looters. They spy that someone is in Patty's salon and obviously go to investigate because she's dating their colleague and end up finding them inside. They insist that they take Patty and Allison to wherever they need to go. And so knowing exactly what they're doing is illegal, they get driven to the house of this person that they're going to meet. And of course the cops wait outside until everyone's inside. This person, however, turns out to be a woman and not the man that they were expecting. They go inside, they start talking to this woman, and it seems that she's a former disgruntled employee of 35 years. I mean, I've drawn a lot of parallels this year to the current American government, but I mean, that's kind of irony. This was filmed 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and disgruntled employees getting let go from their own government. I wonder why they're so disgruntled. But anyway, she essentially gives them the keys to City Hall and tells them where the records room is and that they're going to have to find their own way around. And since there's a blackout, there's going to be no alarm and they don't have to worry about anything. So they head over to City Hall. They break in. They eventually find the room But throughout, Patty is just terrified. She thinks that they're going to get caught. Obviously, there's an alarm. She thinks there's going to be a backup alarm. But everything seems to be running smoothly. They get to the records room, they find the record, and they leave. But just as they're about to leave, the lights come back on, the alarm goes off, and they have to run. And so now Allison is going to be called Gertrude Franch from now on. She knows that she can take this woman's identity and move away and live her life however she wants to live it. Patty tells her that she is going to be moving on herself because Tammy has asked her to move in with her. And so before they leave for the night, they both say, I can't believe that you're not going to live here anymore, because they're never going to be neighbours again. Kevin, however, at the restaurant ends up finding the actual unit when the lights are turned on. It was just in a different location from where he left it previously. He left it in the middle of the floor, someone moved it out of the way. However, it's revealed that the reason that the power went out is because Kevin was playing with fireworks and he fired one at a generator and it blew the generator. And so it's at this point that you start to see everyone turn on Kevin. Even his dad starts to turn on Kevin, and his dad always seems to be the one who likes his japes as much as anyone. Whereas now, Kevin keeps insulting his girlfriend, and he also stole her hearing aid, and his dad's pissed at him. Diane is pissed at Kevin because Kevin tried to set her up with his dad, and Neil is pissed off at Kevin because he just keeps doing Kevin things, and Neil can't take it anymore. He's also started to develop feelings for Diane, and they end up kissing while the lights are out in the restaurant. And so even though everyone's pissed at him, they still head out all together, but Neil heads off with Diane, leaving Sam alone in the restaurant. He texts Allison and tells her that he wants to see her, and she goes over, and he tells her that he understands why she has to get away, that this guy's fucking terrible, and the advice that he was giving was the fucking pits. And you can kind of see the regret that he has. He wishes that things had worked out between them, but so does she. And she realises how much she still wants and cares for him, and she ends up kissing him before regretting it all and leaving. And so now we're unsure if Allison is going to leave and become Gertrude Franch, or whether Sam's going to go with her, or whether he's going to stay, or whether they're just going to be together instead. God knows. But 3 episodes to find out, I suppose. Episode 6. The Machine. So as we know from a few episodes ago, Kevin had an interview. However, the interviewer actually knew Allison from school and started to publish a little bit about what Allison does and who she is when it comes to Kevin. Which obviously Kevin was upstaged and feels like he needs to gain the limelight again. And so when he further gets upstaged by someone new in town who is known as the new Wild Man of Worcester, he gets pissed off. And here we see Kevin's power within the community, or just in general. For some reason, he has this innate power where people will do what he wants. So when he complains about this reporter, she gets fired instantly. And so after she packs up her desk, Kevin has also put a horse's head, or at least a toy horse's head, on her car as well, covered in blood. Or paint, probably. But it just seems whatever strings Kevin wants to pull, he does, and things happen for him. We then see that Kevin ends up being late for work. He's rushing around the house and tells his dad about a stop sign that is near their house that he needs to get rid of because it's always stopping him. And that means that he's always late for work, and he's just trying to find workarounds of, instead of setting off earlier, just getting to work with as little problems as possible. And so he tells his dad that he's going to come up with a solution. Of course, Kevin, being the root one to everything, his solution is literally to take the sign. So as Allison and Sam are driving through town one day, all of a sudden Sam's car gets blindsided. Before the EMTs can turn up, Allison flees the scene because she doesn't want to be seen with Sam because it will cause all manner of questions. She heads over to Patty's, and when she gets there, she tells Patty that she's been in an accident, and it turns out that her shoulder has popped out. Patty tells her that she needs to go to the hospital and that they can go and get this sorted, but obviously that will raise questions. And right now, Allison can't have questions raised against her. So she tells Patty that she's going to stay there and they are going to do this together. They're going to pop her shoulder back in. And so to do this, they're obviously getting Dutch courage. They're sat drinking and they're trying to make sure that both Patty and Allison are drunk enough to actually do this thing. Eventually, while Allison's distracted, Patty quickly snaps her arm back into place, and the sound is gross. It's fucking visceral and really grim and made me go all twitchy. But now that Allison is back to normal, she tells Patty that she's going to take advantage of this because she has to rest her arm, obviously. And being in the house with Kevin means that she's going to have to do the usual things that she does, like cleaning the house, etc., etc. So she goes home and makes up a story that she is now on strike because she's waiting for her arm to get better. She tells Kevin that she's having too much time at work and that Sam is going hard on her. And that isn't meant as an innuendo. But because Kevin now feels like he isn't getting the attention and that his wife is suffering, he goes and sees Sam's wife, Jen. Again, Sam has already told Kevin that his marriage is on the rocks, so when Kevin gets there, he sort of pours his heart out to Jen and tells her that it's a bad situation because his wife is coming home tired and not being able to do her duties at home. God forbid that she have a job. And that she just wants some downtime after work. He also tells Jen that they've been staying late after work, and this raises suspicions for Jen. She confronts Sam about it, and he comes clean about what's been going on between him and Allison, which obviously causes ruptures between the two of them. Neil, however, has started sleeping with Diane, but they are doing it in a motel instead of actually anywhere that would make sense, like Neil's home or Diane's home, just so they've got this secret. But Diane doesn't see it as anything but just having sex. Neil, however, has started to garner feelings towards her and feels like they should be together, even though Diane is back with her husband and obviously married. And so Neil starts to feel bad about this because it seems like this would be a good thing for him. He needs someone in his life right now that will look after him and care for him and make sure that he's okay. Kevin won't do that, and his sister is too busy with her own relationship and the fact that she's trying to help Allison out. So at this point, Neil is feeling pretty damn lonely. And he thought that loneliness was going to be suppressed by the fact that he was dating Diane, but turns out they're not dating, they're just fooling around. Allison, however, finds out that they are fooling around and confronts her aunt about this. Her aunt sees no harm in this. She is just having some fun and trying to get away from the fact that her husband's an abusive piece of shit. And so the next time that they actually arrange to have a date together, Neil starts to have second thoughts. He doesn't turn up for the date and he stays at home. He makes an excuse that Kevin needed him for something and he just didn't want to go. So he stayed with Kevin instead. He and Diane start to part ways. Doesn't seem like Neil is interested anymore, and Diane, again, is married. Doesn't need these games right now. She'd already got a lot of shit going on. And so she just leaves him to wallow in his self-pity. Whereas Diane has actually started to feel better around Neil. She feels like she can be open with him, and she's actually stopped drinking because she feels that Neil is a good person and someone that will help her along on her journey. She's actually started doing AA meetings and tells the group that she met Neil before she stopped drinking. He was the reason that she stopped drinking. And now she's starting to wonder if she could actually survive and continue not drinking without him. It feels like what she said to Neil was not what she's actually feeling. Neil instead goes back to Kevin and they get back up to their usual antics. But this all backfires when Neil has an argument with Patty. He comes home drunk one day and he's sat in the living room and Patty comes through and she starts talking to him about what's been going on. And he just dismisses her. He tells her that Kevin needs him and that he's got to be out of the house. But he's way too drunk to be doing anything. When Patty actually tries to calm him down, he just ends up walking out. He goes, finds Kevin, and the next time we hear about Neil, he's actually been arrested. And the person he ends up calling to bail him out ends up being Diane. She comes and she takes him home. She looks after him, which is kind of what he's needed all along. But it seems like he's really spiralling. Patty, however, at this point is also trying to pack. She obviously wants to move in with Tammy, but she's also apprehensive about it. Tammy has seen a real change in Patty over the last few weeks, and she blames it on Allison. She sees that Patty's drinking quite a lot. She sees that Neil's not in a good way, and she keeps questioning the relationship between both Allison and Patty, and whether it's healthy for Patty to be the way that she is. And so while Allison and Patty are chatting about everything that's been going on with Neil, Tammy turns up. She obviously doesn't like the fact that Allison hangs around with Patty so much, and Allison quickly makes her excuses and leaves, but Tammy follows her out the door. For the second time in a week, Patty is drunk, and Tammy wants to confront Allison about that. She asks her if she's seen a change in Patty over the last few weeks, and Allison denies any knowledge of what's going on. She then says that she has been sent a video by the Worcester PD that shows Patty at a gas station where a man was assaulted for his oxycodone. But not only that, the oxy that was stolen was actually found on the guy who shot Kevin. And so she's now starting to wonder what the hell is going on between these four people. But now Allison knows that this video exists, and she starts to worry for Patty. She goes to see Sam while he's at work and talks to him about it. At this point, Sam is going to be having the restaurant taken away from him because it's actually been invested into by his in-laws, and they want to take it away from him because technically they're going to give it to their daughter, which she's not bothered about, so they're just probably going to sell it. But now Sam is going to be out of home because he's going to be moving out from the house that he lives in with his wife. The place that he's actually staying is at the restaurant. He's going to be kicked out of there, and he's going to lose his job all at the same time. Allison has spoken to Kevin about this, and Kevin ends up making a complaint against the restaurant, which would cost them big. So the in-laws end up backing down because it's going to cost way too much money to invest, and they may end up getting sued and lose out on this anyway. So there's no point in going ahead with anything like that. It's here that Allison realises that she can start using Kevin to her advantage. Anytime that Kevin is introduced to someone that she wants a future with or something from, Kevin ruins it. And so now she knows she has to introduce Tammy to Kevin, even though they know each other, but introduce them properly so that Kevin can do something that is going to ruin Tammy. But of course, that's only going to hurt Patty in the end. But right now, Allison isn't thinking about anything like that. Episode 7, The Problem. Allison tries to find a way to essentially get Tammy off her back and try and sort all this out. Essentially, she wants to get Kevin to work his magic, and if it means that Tammy is kicked off the force, then so be it. She lets Kevin know about what happened when she planted evidence, and now Kevin is all over it. He's trying to end her career. But of course, this is going to affect Patty because she is in a bad situation. Obviously, Tammy knows about what's been going on and believes that on that videotape it was her in Vermont, but she can't prove it. She didn't see her face, and even though she knows it's Patty, there is no other proof. She didn't use a card, and the man who was assaulted died. So there's no witnesses to any of it. But Tammy says that she is now on the case and that she is going to come after her. And she also tells Patty that she can't move in with her due to that very reason. It's a conflict of interest right now, and as much as she tries to ignore it, she just can't. She knows Patty was involved, and she knows in some way that Allison was involved. Neil, of course, knows all about what's been going on, and he's spiralling even more. Patty is trying to find him, but is basically staying at home to make sure that he knows that there's someone safe to come home to, because they find out that he's actually been bailed out by Diane. Both Tammy and Allison are on the lookout for Neil, and they're going all over town trying to find him. But when it turns out that they just can't find him, eventually Allison speaks to Kevin, and he comes up with an idea that maybe he's at a certain bar. They said that they'd never go in there again, but he knows what Neil's like. And so Allison heads over to the bar and finds Neil there. He's depressed, and he tells her that he doesn't want to talk to her, but when she offers to take him home, he says, "No, I want you to take me somewhere else." She takes him to the ice rink that he got banned from, and he tries to talk to the owner to see if he can sort something out for them. But when he gets rejected again, he gets pissed off. But Allison decides that she knows that her connection to Kevin will help her out. She heads back in and she talks to the owner, and he allows Neil back in, and by proxy, Patty. And that's the only real reason that Neil was doing this, for his sister. He wanted to make sure that his sister could come back there at any point and enjoy the thing that she enjoyed, especially on her birthday. Neil storms off, and when Allison tries to confront him about what's been going on, he tells her, "Look, I'm no threat to you. Nobody ever listens to me. Nobody cares. I told everyone. I even told Kevin, and he didn't care. He just laughed. I'm a joke. So why would I expect you to understand?" He walks off, and Allison realises that she is sort of in the clear, but obviously Neil's not in a good way. She tells Patty that she's found him and that there's going to be no trouble to either of them. And when she actually heads home, she tries to sleep because she hasn't slept in days. Kevin comes home and he starts talking to her about what's going to happen next with Tammy. He puts an affidavit down in front of her and tells her that if she signs it, then she's witness to what Tammy said, and he can get her kicked off the force. She can't believe what she's about to do and throws the piece of paper on the table. She puts her backpack on and she walks out. She heads to Patty's and she tells her that, don't worry, I'm going to sort all of this. I shouldn't have brought you in on this, and this is all my fault. The next morning, while Kevin is entertaining his guests, the police turn up at the door. They tell Kevin that they've found Allison's backpack out on a mountain trail, and that she is nowhere to be found. Patty goes to see Sam and asks where the hell she is. Sam tells her, I have no idea. She did leave this, however. Patty looks at the card that Allison had left and it says, I'm sorry, it's better this way. And then we see that Allison has actually moved. She's now up in Maine and she is looking at a house. And so it seems that now she's got away from Kevin. She can finally do the thing that she wants to do. And when she's asked what that thing is, she says, I just want to sleep. And finally, Allison has gotten away from Kevin. But of course, there is one more episode to go. Episode 8, Allison's house. And so we move on 6 months later, and Allison has now started a new life. And it seems to be going well, but now she's named Gertrude. And the only problem with that is anytime that she hears the name Allison, she still reacts. She's still jumpy, and she keeps thinking that Kevin is going to be turning around at any corner. So she needs to make sure that her new life is safe for her. We then head back to Worcester and we find out what Kevin's been up to over the last 6 months. He's grown a beard and he's got a shrine to Allison. There has been no body found and therefore they think she's dead, but obviously we know that she's not. Still the same gang are hanging around the house and Kevin is being his usual annoying self. Turns out that in the aftermath, Kevin has actually found himself a new girlfriend. This woman, Molly, played by Erin Hayes, is very different to what Allison was. We can only assume that she's how Allison was in the beginning, very chirpy and just wants to help Kevin out. He, however, is obviously taking advantage because that's the kind of guy he is. However, everyone around him is really starting to fall out with Kevin. He keeps making jokes about his dad's girlfriend. He keeps making sure that Neil is under his boot at all times. And when a joke of Neil's falls flat because he tells Kevin that basically he wishes he were dead, Kevin doesn't get the joke. But as the audience, we know what Neil has been going through. And so we know that he's deadly serious about this. As Neil leaves, we realise that he's still drinking heavily, and this last 6 months has really taken a toll on him. We see the fallout of what happens when Kevin catches him with Diane. It seems that Kevin hasn't found out that he and Diane are together, and when Kevin finds out, he actually starts laughing at the both of them. There is an age difference between the two of them, and he believes that Diane is past it, but Neil doesn't defend her. Eventually, Neil asks Patty if she can do something with Diane, and hopefully, Patty can fix things for him. By this point, Patty is now sick of the fact that Neil depends on her so much, and she tells him as much. She tells him, you need to move out, and you need to start living your own life, because Patty doesn't want to be there to protect him anymore. Once he's told that he's going to be getting kicked out, he heads over to see Diane. He ends up drunk at her house, and he begins banging on the door. Eventually, when Diane turns up, she berates him for the way that he's been acting. He tells her that he was wrong and that he should be with her and that they should be together. But with him being drunk, it isn't a good sign for her. She tells him that she is over 200 days sober now, and if he is going to act like this, she can't be with him. She wants to be, but he needs to book his ideas up. She essentially reiterates exactly what his sister said to him. It would seem that Patty, in the time that she's had in this 6 months, has been working with Sam to try and find where Allison has gone. She's looking all over the news for people called Gertrude Franch, so she can actually find out where Allison is and go and find her and bring her home. But it seems that every time they get a lead, Allison moves on. But she's not the only one that is looking for Allison either. Tammy is also looking for her. Patty and Tammy are now living together and they've had a chat about what Allison did before she left town. And even though everyone thinks that Allison's dead, Tammy believes that she's not. And so, since Tammy has all these connections, being in the police department, she actually utilises them and manages to find out where Allison is. Allison hasn't moved very far from Massachusetts. She's just up in Maine at this point, and they go and track her down. One day, while Allison is just at home, there is a knock at her door. Tammy is there and she comes inside. Essentially, Allison thinks this is it. She thinks she's going to be arrested, and she just lets Tammy come in and she confesses everything to her. Tammy tells her that she understands why she did what she did and that she's not going to pursue her. She can't actually prove anything that's happened, and this is just a conversation between them. It would seem that Tammy has had enough of the police force anyway and thinks it's best to try and move on. She keeps bugging Patty about moving out of town, but Patty has lived in that area all her life and knows nothing really of the outside world. And so, because Tammy has been overlooked so many times in the police force for any sort of promotion, she decides to leave. She leaves the police force, and she even leaves Patty, because Patty refuses to go with her, just in case Allison ever turns up. Sam is still working in his restaurant, and everything seems to be going well for him. The issue with his in-laws has actually gone away, and he's managed to keep his restaurant. But one day, while in the back, a familiar face appears. Allison has now come back to town. Now she knows that she is in the clear, and that she isn't going to be arrested or anything like that. She decides that it's time to actually confront her demons. When Sam first sees her, he's shocked, and he asks what she's going to do, how she's going to do the things that she's going to do. And at this point in time, Allison really has no plan. And so when Sam actually mentions the fact that Kevin now has a new girlfriend called Molly, and where he met her, it was actually at her wake, Allison decides that she needs to go over and meet this woman. When she does, she has a very frank conversation with her, and then Molly goes over to see Kevin. When she gets there, Kevin is his usual self. He's a bit of an arsehole to her, and she starts to see through the facade. When he actually tells her that she can move in without her even asking, she realises that she needs to get away from this man. Just because he's all light-hearted and it seems the world revolves around him doesn't mean that he should get what he wants. And so when Molly leaves, Kevin realises that he's all alone. His father's left, Neil's gone, and now Molly has too. Allison is dead, and he never sees anything of Patty anymore. He heads into the living room, and then he hears a familiar voice. And it's here, I believe, for the second time that Kevin actually sees the world through Allison's eyes. Because when she tells him that she's going to get a divorce, the world around Kevin goes dull. Instead of the light, airy sitcom that he's always lived in, it's now the world that Allison has inhabited throughout these two series. And this is where we see the different side to him that we've never seen. He becomes angry and he becomes violent towards her. She manages to evade him, and when he tells her that he's gonna fucking ruin her, she tells do your best. She leaves, and as she does, he starts ringing frantically round to Molly, his father, and Neil. Not getting an answer from any of them, he gets more and more frustrated, and the more and more frustrated he gets, the more and more he drinks. It's then that he realises that this shrine to Allison is nothing but fake. He picks up a garbage bin and he starts filling it with this shrine. He pours alcohol on it and then he lights it on fire. It's then that he sits back in his chair, he takes his final drink and passes out. There is a zoom out on the house and we see that Tammy is leaving. She gets in her car and she is the only one at this point that could potentially stop this, because Patty is at Sam's place. She's sitting down with him and she's asking him what's been going on. He tells her that Allison is back in town, and it seems that Patty's one of the only people that's not seen her. Just then she gets a phone call from Neil, and he tells her that Allison and Kevin's house is on fire. She heads back and she even beats the fire department there. The flames by this point are coming out of every window, and it is truly ablaze. If anyone was in there, which we can only assume Kevin is, he's definitely dead. But at this point, obviously she knows that Allison is back in town, and she can only imagine that Allison is in there as well. We see Neil with a bag, and it looks like he is heading out of town. So now Patty is going to be alone. She sits on the steps of Kevin and Allison's house and begins to smoke. It's then that she also hears the familiar voice of Allison. They embrace, they sit on the steps together, and they make a pledge. They say that they are going to die alone together as they watch the sunrise over the houses in front of them. And so we come to the close of Kevin Can Fuck Himself, and what a show this has been. I've really enjoyed watching this series, and I think it's been a fantastic show to watch. The contrast between the light and the dark, I've mentioned it throughout, but I think it's just one of the most unique shows that I have ever watched. And the fact that we ended up seeing Kevin as the true Kevin was mind-blowing at the end. The fact that he was just a bitter, twisted, violent man is a testament to the show, because it kind of keeps it all under wraps. And the way that Eric Peterson actually pulled it off was brilliant. He's been this goofball throughout, this idiot, and then we find out that actually he's a menace. And it was just such a interesting way to end the show. And the fact that this show was sort of based on the show Kevin Can Wait, and the fact that it had Erin Hayes come in at the end, who was actually the wife of Kevin James in that show, was really interesting. I found out since that Erin Hayes was actually fired from that show, and it was very rarely addressed in the actual show itself. She was replaced in the second season, and it wasn't really something that was brought up. But to see her in this, knowing that, it was a great piece of casting for this show. I think the cast throughout has been brilliant, and the way that they've handled themselves in both the light, funny side of things, but also the darkness, has been incredible to watch. And the fact that we see more and more characters throughout the show going through that is what makes this such an interesting show. Annie Murphy stood out in this, and she always does. When she was in Schitt's Creek and when she did her Black Mirror episode, I'm blown away by anything that she does, and I can't wait to watch anything more with her in it. I think she's a fantastic actress, and she just comes off the screen. As for Eric Peterson, he plays this dope so well. He's like a Homer Simpson character, or, well, like Kevin James in Kevin Can Wait, or Everyone Loves Raymond. Like, he plays the character so well that if you actually just saw the lighter side of this, you would believe it was a typical sitcom. But actually the dark side of it really is what makes this stand out. So I was so happy to actually watch this show again and just remind myself how fucking good it is. But as for today, I am done. So please come find me on all the socials, and obviously you can find me on wherever you get your podcasts from. But until next time, I thank you for being here, and I will speak to you soon. Bye. As always, thank you for listening to this podcast, and you could really help me and the podcast by giving a like, share, subscribe on all major platforms that you listen to podcasts on. As an independent podcaster, this will just help me exponentially when it comes to actually doing more things with this podcast. I truly do enjoy this, and I absolutely love revisiting these TV shows with you guys. So any engagement from you is always welcome, and I will try and listen to all of you when you give suggestions or just tell me what you think about the podcast. But once again, thank you for listening, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye.